Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
Morning, doing
Hello.
great. Woohoo!
All right. Well, we're going to get right underway. We got a lot to cover here this morning, and I'll actually mention, because this is a weekly program, the Voices of HealthPointe program, we're actually not going to have a live segment next Saturday. So I'll cue that up right now, and I'll mention it again at the end of this program. But for those that are just joining us for the first time, this is a once a week, Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time session that lasts about an hour. You're welcome to join us live. If you don't join us live, you're welcome to look up on YouTube the channel Voices of HealthPointe, and we've got all of our uploaded episodes on there. But we talk all things HealthPointe, which is a 6-week cycle program that is for optimizing health. Certainly for those that want to use it for weight loss, it's a absolute incredible vehicle for that. And it is a 6-week cycle, and there are people that are actively in a cohort right now. And Monday we'll start week 3 of that for those that are in that first cohort of 2025. But we're going to get going. We've got a couple of docket items. I'm going to do an item on reading food labels. And then Carol is going to cover a deep dive on the power of walking. That's kind of a foundational part of the HealthPointe program, and looking forward always to anything that Carol has to say about any topic in HealthPointe, but certainly on the power of walking. So with that, I'm going to jump into my segment on, I've called it Reading Food Labels, Decoding the Secrets Behind Your Groceries and Meals. So, when Emily, my wife, who is on this program right now as well, so when Emily, my wife, and I started our health journey in 2017, it felt like stepping into really an entirely new world. Looking back now, I can hardly believe how much we didn't know back then. I think I can speak for both of us, but I know I had never really read a food label, which is so strange to me right now. If I turned around a package for granola or something like that, I never looked at the food label. And if I did glance at it, I certainly didn't know what the heck I was looking at. So I knew it existed. I just didn't ever look at it. Now in 2024, I can't imagine going through a week of grocery shopping without reading a label. It's second nature, but it certainly wasn't always that way. One of the most eye-opening parts of learning to read a food label is understanding how deceptive they can be. Take sugar, for example. Did you know there are over 200 different names for sugar? It's not just the obvious ones like sugar or brown sugar. Manufacturers use names like maltodextrin, dextrose, glucose syrup, sucrose, and corn syrup solids to sneak sugar into foods without you realizing it. These chemical sounding names often make it hard to identify sugar's presence in your food. If we listed all the names, we'd be here all day, but just these few examples highlight how easy it is to consume more sugar than you realize without even recognizing it. Let's talk briefly about restaurants. Restaurant food doesn't have a food label, and that's the point. For instance, restaurant food often contains flavor enhancers, some of which we're very familiar with, monosodium glutamate, MSG. And while it can make the food taste better, many people experience allergic reactions or at least have some sensitivities to it. The challenge with restaurant food goes beyond ingredients like MSG. You don't have control over what's happening in the kitchen, making it kind of an unknown food label. If you're active in a 6-week cycle, HealthPointe 6-week cycle, your best choice is to avoid or severely limit restaurant food during that time. However, if you find yourself at a restaurant, choose dishes without sauces or liquid components, as these are often sources of hidden sugars, MSG, and high amounts of sodium. By nature, restaurant food is opaque, which reinforces the importance of knowing what's in your food whenever possible. Another critical concept in the HealthPointe program is understanding net carbs. It's a foundational piece of the program and something we emphasize often because of how directly it impacts blood sugar regulation. Net carbs are calculated by subtracting the grams of fiber and sugar alcohols from the total carbohydrates listed on a food label. But why does that matter? Fiber and sugar alcohols are not absorbed by the body in the same way as other carbohydrates. Since they don't get broken down into glucose, they don't raise your blood sugar levels like digestible carbs do. By focusing on net carbs rather than total carbs, you can more accurately understand how a food will impact your blood sugar and energy levels. This distinction is especially important for stabilizing blood sugar and supporting metabolic health. Perhaps the most revealing part of any label is the ingredient list itself. Did you know that the order of ingredients matters? I never knew that. I mean, back in 2017, but they're listed by weight, which means the first ingredient makes up the largest proportion of the product. So if the first ingredient is sugar, you know the bulk of what you're eating isn't doing you any favors. At the same time, if a product has a long list of dozens and dozens of ingredients, that's probably a red flag in itself. Simpler foods with fewer ingredients are usually better for you. This is just the beginning of what you can uncover when you learn how to read a label. It's not about being perfect or memorizing every hidden ingredient, but about making informed choices that help you take control of your health. Step by step, these small habits can transform the way you eat, the way you shop, and how you feel every day. So that's kind of the wrap on the segment. I wanted to give a couple of examples here. I'm sure we could all, if we had some fun ingredients in front of us, could do this. But this one, I'll give you both extremes here. I'm going to give you an extreme, a friend of ours, actually someone that's active and a great advocate for HealthPointe, and in a group channel with himself, and his name is Larry, and a friend of his that is on the HealthPointe program. He'll occasionally send over all kinds of funny stuff that is, relevant to HealthPointe. And just the other day, a couple of days ago, he sent over, as he often does, these crazy foods that you can find in the stores. And he sent over two pictures. One was hot dog flavored potato chips. Okay. All right. And the other one was milk chocolate covered potato chips. Okay. So these are bags, obviously processed food. So I thought, well, that'll be fun. We can all imagine what's on that food label for either the hot dog flavored potato chips, which apparently are really common in like 7-Eleven convenience stores and so forth like that. So I did so, but I made it to this part and stopped. It says, consuming this product can expose you to chemicals like acrylamide, which is known in many states to cause cancer and birth defects or other reproductive harm. So I kind of stopped at that point, figured, it's not, we don't need to go beyond that. But on the other end of the spectrum, I thought I would take a picture. Actually, Emily and I were doing some grocery shopping yesterday, different than the day that we normally do. And I am actively in a 6-week cycle, and I like these fermented pickle type products anyways, or kimchi and stuff like that. But I thought I would be very deliberate about looking at the food label. So this one is kind of like, I've got two of them. This one is like a pickling. It's got cucumbers, water, vinegar, apple, garlic, does have sugar, salt, carrots, green onions, red pepper, ginger, and the last ingredient is calcium chloride, which is a natural mineral salt. So the total carbohydrate per serving is 1 gram. The total sugars is 1 gram, and it has 0 added sugars. That's the key thing, is that 0 added sugars. So that's one example. And then there's another version of, this is actually a kimchi, and the ingredients in this is, remember, it's by weight, so your first items in the ingredient list are the dominant things. So Napa cabbage, yellow onion, green onion, red chili pepper flakes, less than 2% of salt, fresh peeled garlic, fresh ginger, organic sugar, fish sauce, which is anchovies and salt, salted shrimp, and beef bone broth. The total carbs per serving, and again, where I use this is in the place of dressings. I'll often, this is a bit of a liquidy type of a material, is instead of like a normal type of dressing, or even a HealthPointe, simple dressing that you can get, and there's many out there. Sometimes I'll use a product like this almost to create that dressing. So it's a small amount that's added on top of if I'm having a salad for HealthPointe. But anyhow, the total carbs is 2 grams per serving. The total sugars is less than 1 gram, 0 added sugars. Surprisingly, it has somehow 1 gram of protein in there. And the total fat, saturated fat and trans fat, is 0 grams across the board. So that a couple of extremes. Again, you can go for the hot dog flavored potato chips or the milk chocolate covered potato chips and enjoy that ingredient list, or go into more simple food items like this and experience the differences in your blood sugar and overall metabolic health. So that's all I've got on reading food labels. I'll open it up, as we often do, to thoughts, comments, etc. Anybody want to chime in on food labels?
When I was listening to you, first of all, I'm not a lover of fermented foods. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is transparency. I don't like sauerkraut. So I kind of try to find little better things to do in other arenas, since I might not put that on my salad. But for those of you that maybe aren't, Eric, you like that fermented. Our son loves fermented stuff. He's kimchi like it's coming out of his ears. To me, maybe a Greek yogurt might be a good alternate fermented something, or if you're looking for something on a salad, and you first of all, you don't need to slather your salad with dressing anyway, which you don't. But I would say to anybody on HealthPointe, or anybody period, drizzle a little bit of olive oil and maybe some apple cider vinegar, which that Bragg apple cider vinegar's got tremendous health benefits to it, and perhaps some little seasonings. So if you're not in the Eric arena for the rest of us, you could do something simple like that. But I think it's great, and a lot of people do love that. And I say, boy, have at it. Some of that stuff, it's just not where I'm at. But I think a lot of people could go into that area and be perfectly fine with it. So I love it. But on the food labels, somebody sent me, and I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it while you were on, but it was the 10 foods that are banned around the world except the United States. And it was interesting as I read them, because I wanted to give a list. I'll find it and get that list out. But anyway, 2 of them were 2 of my very, very, very favorite things I ate for many, many years before HealthPointe came on the scene. And one of them was Ritz crackers. And they're actually banned in other countries. I still, to this day, I haven't eaten a Ritz cracker in 1,000 years, but I probably, if I started eating them, would want to eat more. I always found them tasty, and I used to put a chunk of cheese on them. I take about a dozen of those, put them on a paper plate, stick them in the microwave for 30 seconds, and I was a happy camper. That was better than any apple pie or cake or anything. but now that product is banned. The other one, and many of you know, I was the Skittles queen when back in the day when we lived up in Michigan, and again, this was the beginning of HealthPointe when I started becoming awake to what I was doing. I used to stop in the gas stations when I get sleepy, and this was probably, I'm sure it was before the excess days too. And I used to go in the gas station into their food shop, which there was no food in there, and I would pick up Skittles, and I would eat a whole bag of Skittles, and then I'd wonder why I got zoned out. And I can't even imagine between the colorants and the sugar content what that did to my blood sugar, because I do know that I would go into like a almost like a sugar coma. I mean, I wouldn't be in a coma because obviously I was driving, but you could definitely feel, and I can remember sometimes even being home when we lived in Livonia, and being home and eating something real high in sugar and literally feeling like I was kind of entering into some kind of a brain fog coma type situation. So it just I'll try to find the video, but it does make me think back on what you're saying with the food labels. Those 10 things were actually, and I think Gatorade is one of them too, or one of those products just like Gatorade. Maybe it was Mountain Dew, but anyway, just to make people realize how off base we are in the United States. Now, I believe this is going to change with RFK and making America healthy again, which I'm very excited about. I think it's going to make America awake and also put bans on foods, or at least drive people away from eating them. But I love, I love your take on that, and just reading those labels. That's great.
Oh, that's fun stuff. Ritz crackers, huh?
Confession, those were two biggies for me. And Cheez-Its was another one. Still to this day, I could never have those things laying around the house, nor would I ever pull into a gas station. I don't care how hungry I am. I would never pull in a gas station and get those, because I know my system would trigger right into those types of things. And so I just, I always tell people, if you don't want to eat them, you shouldn't eat them. Just don't have them around. Don't be around them. Just don't, you know,
Don't tempt yourself.
why sabotage yourself? Make your job easier. Just out of sight, out of mind.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned that we may experience some things that are going to change in terms of maybe aligning us with some of these other countries around the world that don't allow some of these foods and some of the dyes. I think I'm correct in my facts that there was, due to enormous outcry, particularly in the Senate roundtable hearing that many of us paid attention to later last year, where it was, boy, all the notable people, certainly Callie and Casey Means. I think Dr. Mark Hyman was there, and all this testimony, and there was outcry on so much in our food system, but one of them was the dyes. And one of the real memorable segments in that was where I don't know her name. She goes by the social media label, I think, as the food babe. She's very strong, very, I mean, she comes out firing, and she held up two different bags of cereal. Both are the same product. One was allowed to be sold in the United States. The other, same product, was made for other markets. And they were making both products at the same factory, actually here in Michigan. And they were pointing out that the product that is sold in America to the kids in America allowed these different coloring dyes into the cereal, which made it interesting. I thought, well, does that make it more tasty or something like that? No, it just makes it visually appealing to children, which I think is sick and wrong. And especially when it's harmful to health and banned in other countries. I mean, that is just sick and wrong. So they literally organized a, what do you call it, like a march on that manufacturing facility at their headquarters, over in West Michigan, and with like 400,000 signed petitions, signatures on this petition to get this stuff out of these cereals. And again, I think I'm correct on this, that just recently, within this year, 2025, I think it's red dot number 40, that red dye is now being banned from our food products manufactured here in the United States. So to your point, Carol, that you're hopeful that the tide is changing, that things will clean up in our food supply here. If I have my details correct, that is an early indicator that that is absolutely the case. And I mean, those of us in HealthPointe couldn't be more thrilled, right? That's so good. Any other thoughts? Dave, I see you're unmuted.
I was just going to say that I have a 15-year-old granddaughter who just finished up her first semester of gym and will be beginning health classes on Monday. And it'll be real interesting as I chat with her to find out if they get into information about labels and things like that. And again, this household, they're pretty familiar with, my grandkids, they read the sugar labels, but they predominantly, to irritate me, they'll just say, this Gatorade has 40, how many sugars do you think this Gatorade has? And I say whatever, and they'll say, it's got 40, and then they'll just, start drinking it down. So anyways, as teenagers, they are aware of reading labels and aware of sugars, and we talk about those things, but I don't have 100% control of other people's households. And so, but anyways, bottom line is just what you share is like so important, and most people are uneducated.
Right. Yeah, and that's a key point. Boy, wouldn't it be great if just knowing the facts automatically, with all of us, myself included, right? If just knowing the facts would immediately trigger a change in behavior. It's more complicated than that. Facts are part of it. Awareness is part of it. But you mentioned, somebody may know the fact about Gatorade, but still choose to consume it. Hey, that is that's why HealthPointe exists, right? Because and also why we exist as facilitators and coaches and so forth. If it was just a matter of here's the facts on Gatorade, here's the facts on whatever, then there would be no HealthPointe coaches because it would be just like, here's the facts, and everybody just cleans up their behavior. But it's more complicated than that. We are behavior based. We are we can get great value from somebody that is walk the walk, done the program, is knowledgeable on the program, and in a sometimes sensitive, loving way, heartfelt way, but a clear way, lead us through a 6-week cycle or whatever. And so yeah, the point is and I'm still that way. I mean, there's certain things that I choose to do that somebody else would look at me and judge me, and I'm aware of that, and I'm good with that. That I will always be working at chipping away these less than ideal parts of my life and lifestyle and outside of health, but that's why we are, not perfect human beings, and it's definitely not about just the facts. So great point, David.
Well, I know that, sugar is bad, and I consume a bits of sugar, I really cut down personally. But when you did the information about sugar and how it relates to cancer at one time, okay, I'm almost down to 0. I mean, that for me, that was enough information that really triggered a change in behavior. Another one is that we've talked on this channel about if you get up in the morning and you guys often talk about doing 5,000 steps. Okay, I'm nowhere there, but maybe 1,000 or 2,000 steps before I eat breakfast, that I'm burning the fat in my body. Okay, so for me, those are things that made sense in my head and evoked me to changing behavior. And so, like you said, it takes, sometimes you have to hear it multiple times, and there's others, we're in different stages of life. And I just always also remember my behavior my eating behavior, I don't want to discuss of what I ate when I was in my 20s. So
We'll
Perfect.
save that for another episode. The David's 20s eating behavior full episode. That'll be entertaining for any of us, I'm sure.
You
Good
know, I think,
morning, Eric.
go ahead, hon.
Good morning,
Hello.
Hank.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, great. Well, since you're talking about food and protein is an important part of our HealthPointe program, some of you might have experienced a shortage of eggs nowadays. Uh,
Yes.
yes, because here's the reason why. Bird flu, which is happening big time, just in December alone, killed 40 million egg laying hens, and in January has already killed over 12 million egg laying hens. So that's where the shortage is coming from. And I know eggs are an important part because they have so much benefit health wise, right? You know, you got a lot of vitamin B12 in it, you got vitamin D, choline, lutein, and on in the eggs. So, what can you do? What can you substitute for that in case you're having this problem with getting eggs? Well, I came across an article which brought some points out, which are very good to know. And I want to start out with the first thing they mentioned is Greek yogurt. Okay, it's a they call one inexpensive breakfast protein that may already be in your fridge. A five ounce container has about 16 grams of protein plus calcium. Its ample probiotics have also been linked to improvements in gut and immune health. So there's Greek yogurt. Protein powder, which we have in our business, right? Yeah, you get 20, 30 grams of protein, it's right on our bag. You can look at it. You can look at the vegan one, whatever. And so that's another possibility. Another one is chia seeds. Now, nuts and seeds don't always get their due as a source of protein, but chia seeds contain nearly 5 grams of protein per ounce and are a tasty fodder for a breakfast pudding. You talked about a pudding at one time, I believe, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, chocolate chia pudding made with a regular milk has about 18 grams of protein plus fiber, omega 3 fats, calcium, and vitamin D. It's in the chia seeds. So,
Mm.
what this article recommends is mixing 3 heaping tablespoons of chia seeds and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder into a cup of milk. Now, you know, it may be almond milk or whatever. Then if you want to sweeten it, you talk about maple syrup, but we don't go into sweeteners, right? You can refrigerate the pudding for at least 30 minutes or overnight. Then enjoy it as a protein-packed morning treat. Okay, that's a chia seed. And then
Nice.
there's tofu, which I don't care too much for tofu, but I'll read it what it tells you here. It's another smart swap for eggs. A half cup contains about 9 grams of protein, noticeably more than a single egg. Tofu also helps start your day with satiating fiber, something eggs won't do. Since most Americans don't eat enough fiber, subbing tofu might be a good idea even outside of an egg shortage. Even better, this vegan food music, you can mix it with bread, eggs if you want, scramble them, all different things you can do with onions and mushrooms and spinach. But it goes into that kind of stuff. But tofu is another possibility. So I just wanted to share those with you. Hopefully, they're helpful to people doing the Health Point program, especially.
Wow, that is
Mm.
so valuable, Hank. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mentioned Emily and I were actually doing grocery shopping yesterday, and once again, the egg section, nothing. This is in Whole
Right.
Foods, nothing. And it's been like that for many weeks, and it never dawned on me to look into what's behind it. But this, more importantly than what's behind it, is these suggested 4 different alternatives that you can implement in the absence of eggs. This is so valuable. Yeah. Yeah, in the first one that you mentioned, Hank, on the Greek yogurt, and then Carol, you mentioned also on, I think it was when you were talking about maybe, I think it was in the context of like a salad dressings, because you were saying like don't have to slather it on and stuff like that. And since Hank is mentioning it again, many of us know, but it'll just be a reminder to so many people. This is where reading labels is very, very valuable, because there are yogurts on the shelves, and then there are yogurts on the shelves. And some of those yogurts, they may say yogurt on the label, but you read the label, and I think the yogurt component of it might be in the last section of that long list of ingredients. It's full of syrupy strawberry or blueberry or whatever fruit, lots of high fructose corn syrup and all these other things. So Hank, when you're mentioning Greek yogurt, and Carol also mentioning Greek yogurt, this is altogether different. This is a pure, clean, healthy yogurt.
I think, and I haven't eaten Greek yogurt for a while. You kind of go through food phases, not for any particular reason, but when I was buying it before, we'd sweeten it with a little bit of either stevia or a little bit of twist tube, and it makes a really delicious. I mean, you can buy the Greek yogurt is for a sophisticated tongue, so to speak. Many people don't like it, and that's why I think being able to sweeten it up with a little bit of a twist tube or something, also throwing some berries in it. That's a perfect breakfast. That's one of the breakfast suggestions. And just today I suggested to somebody that if they want to make a breakthrough, they're doing real well on their program, but if they want to make a breakthrough, they might want to change egg and toast. But this is before I knew any of this. I went to the store the other day and I said to Hank, I think it was because it was late in the day, but there was hardly no eggs. There were eggs there, these blue heirloom eggs, but I just thought it was the lateness of the day, but I'm going to check early in the day now and see down here. But anyway, that Stonyfield Greek yogurt, it's an organic yogurt. I felt was good. Now I haven't checked that on Yucca, that app, so I'm going to do that. But the Stonyfield Greek yogurt, when you start getting into unflavored, not vanilla flavored or any of those, because again, your sugar content starts coming up. But just your basic Greek yogurt, that one I found was very good at that point in time. Beware of the little cups of yogurt. That's where they'll usually doctor them up and make them more like a snack. And yogurt can be as evil as a candy bar if they want it to be. And there are stuff on the shelves like that. So I would say buy the larger container and get something that is as basic as possible. And your label will tell you very easily. But the Greek yogurt is very, very, very high in protein. I think for a serving, it's like 20 grams of protein and very low in sugar, and has a lot of your probiotics in it. But even if you don't do the Greek yogurt, you've been doing a regular yogurt, but the Greek yogurt is going to be a lot higher in your protein content.
Mm-hmm.
Question, Carol.
I'm sorry?
A twist tube, does a twist tube for one serving, or do you use a twist tube over 2 servings, or a twist tube over 3 servings?
2 or 3 drops maximum, maybe 1 drop. You don't need much twist tube.
Oh, okay.
This is not a twist tube like you pour into your water. This is a little spot. And you do it according to your taste. Maybe do it a little bit more. And then as you're eating it more often, maybe cut down a drop the next time and a drop the next time to alter your taste buds so you don't want it so sweet. But it's a purposeful sweetener. And again, very, very minimal, very minimal.
Am I glad I asked the question? I would have put a complete twist tube into.
No. Into the whole
You would have a little bit of yogurt with your twist tube, is what you're saying, David.
Thank
no.
you.
And putting berries in, berries like raspberries or blueberries, or you know, if you're in a climate where you don't have berries plentiful, because I know that that'll vary across the United States. Pick up your Wyman's mixed berries. Hank has used those for years. Your wild Maine blueberries and your triple berries from the Wyman's, Wymans, and just throw those in. I just thaw them out, put them in a container in your refrigerator, and just take a, you know, however much of those and add them to your yogurt. One little drop of twist tube, and I mean, and then maybe even throw in some chia seeds in that. I think that would be a breakfast yogurt. We could call that our HealthPointe breakfast yogurt, and have fun with it, you know. And you're getting fiber. You're not adding a bunch of wheat and stuff like that. This is just clean stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll offer up another couple of choices that I've personally experienced. One is, in addition to adding like a twist tube to yogurt, I personally enjoy the tart flavor of our muscle multiplier, the wild berry muscle multiplier. And I know in a perfect world, when you take your muscle multiplier, you do it in a window of 20 minutes outside of another protein. But I do that, but I will, when I want a yogurt, a Greek yogurt, I'll add, again, do it portion to taste. But I would highly recommend against a full scoop of wild berry amino acid in with your yogurt. But I would, or do take some of that Greek yogurt, some of that wild berry is the one that I like the taste of. And that kind of gives it that, I don't know, that it's the way I describe it is like a tart, almost like a sweet tart, for those that can remember like sweet tarts as a kid, type of a flavor. And then if I'm really on, you know, feeling robust on this, I'll then add, like you mentioned, Carol, some berries, maybe some blueberries in with that. And that's the texture, the consistency, the flavor. Oh man, it's just absolutely delicious. And then one more version, and I actually experimented on this. My dad, I typically take him salmon fishing once a year. And on this particular morning, you know, you get up really early for salmon fishing, you know, you go out and in the dark, and it was cold that particular morning. And I often enjoy our chocolate protein powder in a shake form that I'll add almond milk and chia seeds to it to kind of thicken it up and so forth. But it was a chilly morning, and I knew my dad would enjoy like a hot breakfast, you know, warm breakfast on this cool morning before we headed out to go salmon fishing. And so I simply heated up the liquid, did the same process of adding the same amount of chia seeds to it, which is a thickening agent, and then the protein powder, which is a thickening agent, and just stirred that up and just kind of let it sit for a little bit. And so instead of putting it into the refrigerator like you would for the pudding, or like a pudding snack, this was a full bowl of this. And for those that can remember, I remember as a kid having cocoa wheats. Okay. It was, yeah, you're thinking the same thing, aren't you, Carol? Yeah. Yeah, cocoa wheats is what it was. And I was a little bit nervous, you know. Oh, and then, you know, put a pinch of salt in there, you know, get some salt in there. And anyhow, my dad loved it. Absolutely loved it. He's a big fan of the protein powders. In fact, he uses the unflavored protein powders as an additive to various, you know, soups and stews and dishes that he prepares. But yeah, so that's another version using the Neutralite Organics chocolate flavored protein powder, and making yourself a nice hot bowl of, call it cocoa wheats. You know, it was really delicious. So, hey, this is fun. Some good choices.
You can call it Cocoa Pro.
Cocoa Pro. I'll tell you one other thing too. And I don't think I'm unique in this. When I was a kid, you know, my mom would always like she was a great cook, and if there was, something that wasn't perfect in the meal, she would call herself out on it, which on the cocoa wheats was always if you had lumps, right? The idea with it was to not have lumps. And my brothers and I, we always loved the lumps. That was you would search around in your bowl. Oh yeah, I got a lump, which was where it didn't quite get stirred up correctly, and you would have this lump of this whatever cocoa wheat was made out of, but it was delicious. And you would search for those lumps and you loved them. Mom didn't like seeing them, but we loved them as kids. Well, the same thing with your Cocoa Pro, let's call it, our chocolate Cocoa Pro with the protein powder, those chia seeds and the protein powder, I did my best job on stirring it up, but there was a little bit of a lump here or there. My dad loved it. So it's a really great breakfast cereal, if you want to call it such.
To throw a couple of other products in there, because as I was listening to you talking about the lumps, what else is good, and especially if you find a little lump in there, is adding your superfood, your or Nutrilite organic, in particular the fruit one. I mean, it's great.
Good point.
Good, great on immunity. I have to go and run and get it, but I'm pretty sure it's very low on carbs. But that would be another thing you could add right into your yogurt instead of fruit. And you're going to sweeten it up, and maybe you might even find a little chunk there. And every one of those little chunks has a little pop in it. And that's the protein powder the superfood that didn't break down. So you might want to pull that out and create that. And another thing that I was thinking of when you were talking about the muscle multiplier, adding that, how about adding the Moral Blood Orange, the excess Ignite?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a pixie stick, and you can add some of that as a sweetener, and that you can add right in with your protein. It does not disturb it. Your muscle multiplier, that would disturb it a little bit, and like you say, it's an additive anyway, so it's not like you're going to do that for the actual drink itself. But yeah, I think that Moral Blood Orange, and right away, what you're doing is also you're utilizing wonderful products that we have that are going to help your lean team and help yourself just get to the bottom line of what you want to accomplish, so what weight you want to lose. The Moral Blood Orange, 12 weeks of that, and there's a New England Journal of Medicine that says in 12 weeks you lose you lose visceral fat, your belly fat, and that's one of the benefits of it. So if you're going to use a sweetener anyway, put some of that in, and it'll help along with losing that visceral fat. So there's so many creative things, and I think probably what we all need to do is maybe just throw some emails to me of some of these creative ideas. And towards the end, I want to take a segment. And of course, before you send them to me, make sure that they are HealthPointe friendly. In other words, these would be for lean teamers. And I can make a list of these, and we can shoot them out to the lean teamers and get all kinds of creative ideas. We did a couple. We did your yogurt, your protein pudding. I did my tuna towers. But we really need to do a lot more creative things like this. Different things you can add for sweeteners that we have in our product line. And what that'll do also, especially if you have clients on this, many of us have first-time clients or clients that are basically on, the buy three, get one free, but nothing else. You can encourage that by introducing other products that they can use that will benefit them. It will increase their understanding of the product line and venture out more, and create some of these exciting things. And going back to RFK real quickly, before I close that book, one of the things I really hope happens is as this stuff unfolds, and it will, and it'll start to take momentum, just like exercise took momentum, and all these exercise clothes and all these high-end power walking shoes and all of this type thing. I really hope that our eating programs, our eating patterns, our choice of foods will take on a make it cool slogan. In other words, David brought out about his grandson. We want to make these things cool. Because once they make it cool, and media has to do that, but once we make these things cool, then it'll catch on in schools, it'll catch on amongst each other, and it won't be weird. You know, just like we always say in HealthPointe, don't be weird, or in the business, don't be weird. We don't want to be weird in this, but we want to be cool. And sometimes just, you know, hey, I came up with this, and wow, this really, really is tasty. You know, we hope America, make America healthy again, makes it cool to be healthy, and that's going to take time. But
yeah, it will. But I think it will happen, and I think it's off to a great start. I happen to catch, as I'm sure you have, Carol and Hank, you know, just if you want to kind of define a person that's pretty darn cool, it's RFK himself. And then when you see these short clips, I remember some time ago seeing some short clips and talk about somebody that's, you know, walking the talk. You see this dude, I don't know what his age is, but he's not a young man. The dude's buff. He is cool. He is, there were some clips of him like in kind of like a jungle gym setting, you know, there's different people in this kind of like this outdoor park, and he's doing pull-ups and stuff like that. The dude is cool. He is very cool. I mean, he's got that, you know, the Kennedy good looks, you know, and the dude's a stud. And so I think no better than, you know, that image to kind of start off on this cool, because I agree, you know, it's as it needs to have kind of a cultural effect. And if particularly young people, you know, think that being healthy is somehow uncool, then they will kind of repel from it. But if it's aspirational, if people around them, cool people around them, are doing healthy things, making healthy choices, then that alone will kind of pull them into that, and that would be great. That's a great insight, Carol. It's going to be very important in this, you know, march forward into a healthier America. I think we're on a great trajectory.
I didn't think about it, but she's right on. I mean, the reason why my grandkids choose not to, they do a lot of the things I talk, they take the supplements and a lot of bars and a lot of other things, but some of it is that cool factor. Like I don't know if it's wintergreen or winter excess right now, is like, if you have that on your desk in high school, you're cool. And so that's kind of like the cool drink to have on your desk right now. And so my granddaughter, whenever I stop anywhere, that's what she's searching for constantly, is a winter excess, and because it's hard to get.
Yeah.
Not excess, winter Red Bull, rather, excuse me.
Oh, I was going to say, okay.
I said winter Red Bull is the drink that high school kids want to have on their desk, at least in Southgate.
Yeah, and you know, whether we like it or not, you know, some of this will be driven by celebrities. I mean, RFK is a celebrity and he's leading the way with things, but I mean, how many celebrity basketball players have you seen endorsing McDonald's, right? How many celebrity sports players, you know, soccer, football, musicians, oh my gosh, you know, and these different sodas and stuff like that, beer, right? The, you know, beer commercials, you know, full of beautiful looking men, beautiful looking women. I don't know, people that drink, you know, a 12-pack regularly don't quite look like that body shape to me, in my observation. But you've got these cultural icons that make it cool. David, to your point about Red Bull, I mean, Red Bull is they do a lot of cool branding commercials and stuff like that, and look at the effect of it. So I think hopefully this is part of the program. We don't have control of it, but you know, on a national level, if we start bringing in some of these iconic, you know, music figures, these iconic athletic figures, these iconic, you know, just cultural icons that people love to aspire to or follow, and they kind of define cool, and instead they're doing healthy choice. The great irony is these people always did healthy choices. They just got paid a boatload of money to hold up a can of soda and wink into the camera. But if you're an elite athlete dunking basketballs in the NBA, you're not consuming that stuff. You know, your personal trainer will have your head, you know, or your agent will. They're eating and doing all the things that are healthy, but getting paid, you know, a lot of money for this other stuff. So hopefully that will change.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much, Hank, for leading us on this amazing rabbit trails and so valuable. And I agree, Carol, the kind of compiling some of this into a list, I can come alongside and help on that as well. So we'll make that happen, whether it's our cocoa wheat, protein wheat, or whatever we're calling it, to whatever.
Pro.
Cocoa Pro. We will get that all put together. So, Carol, we've had such a fun time on our rabbit trail, but we've got time for your benefits of walking segment. So if you'd like to close this out here, that would be great.
I think I'm going to save that for Monday, because I think all of you will be on Monday anyway. And I'll just uncover that on Monday, because I think this was really valuable to just toss around some of these ideas and just really, one of the things that we're going to be doing in each segment of HealthPointe, I'm trying to hit, each segment of the Lean Team Weeks, I'm trying to hit on an important factor of HealthPointe to the Lean Teamers and why we do what we do. And so Monday night, we're going to be talking about why we do what we do. And of course, we're going to have our step queen on. I'm going to do a little interview with Kathy on creative ways of getting your steps in, while life goes on. And Kathy's a great example of a lot of different stuff happening in their life, from floods to, illnesses to what have you. And so we'll do that. One of them I'm going to have, just to give you guys a little preempt, I'm going to have Linda Vest, probably one towards the end, talk about lifetime maintenance, because, what happens at the end of the story? You don't just get down to your weight and then boom, you're all left out in the field. That's not good. There was a message talked way back. Well, I think you did it, Eric, about Ozempic and what happens after you get off Ozempic. Okay. Well, what happens when you're finished with your HealthPointe, you're right where you want to be, you've created your habits. Now what? And Linda has been a walking model of HealthPointe for years and years and years in all aspects. And so she has agreed to do one of those topics. Another topic I'd like is things I learned on my road to with HealthPointe. And so those would be quips of people, little one-liners or things that they've learned while effectively being on HealthPointe. So we need all of you to think of it yourself, but also anybody that you've got on HealthPointe, get from them things they've learned and listen to their one-liners as you're talking to them. What did they do as a result of this? What did they find as a result of that? Somebody just told me the other day, I found that I really lost my taste for a lot of sugar, and just little things like that so people can understand. So that'll be one topic. And in that might be that same topic might be fun things you can do for snacks, or making healthy HealthPointe friendly meals when you want to change it up, getting creative. So we'll do that. But Monday night will be primarily on walking. Walking has so many more benefits than what we just realized, getting just steps. It's so many benefits. And so we'll just take that time to do that on Monday night.
Okay. Well, that sounds...
I'm going to go hit the celery fields and find my...
Right, right. Yeah. So we were joking for those that weren't part of the preamble, we were joking beforehand. We're used to seeing Carol out on her power walk during this segment, and she's looking lovely as always, but not out on her power walk. Well, I guess it's uncharacteristically, is it raining or is it cold in Florida?
It's absolutely gorgeous out. It's just cold. It was like in the 30s. I said, just a minute here. I said, I'm not going out. Well, Hank actually came in and he said, you're not going to go out for a power walk, are you? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course,
It
those of
wasn't.
us in Michigan that have had the 2 degrees and 4 degrees, we're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's 40
I'm
out right.
sorry to hear that, but I told Carol, I said, it's 35 outside, but it feels like 29. Are you sure you want to go out walk?
Well, it's 40 now, but it's going up to 65 today. So don't feel sorry for us. And I think in another hour, it's going to be up into the high 50s. And the sun is full sun. There's not a cloud in the sky. So that, of course, adds a lot of nice heat too. So, but I do want to, I think twice a week. In fact, in reading this article, it said change your terrain. And I have a tendency to walk my neighborhood a lot, but I think a couple of days a week, I'm going to start doing the celery fields. We did that last week when Craig and Doreen were here. And you had a pretty steep incline to go up. It was like definitely hiking. And you can do that as often as you want, and you can do it to varying degrees, but it gives a lot of variation in terrain. So I think a couple of days a week, I'm gonna be hitting the celery fields, and
Wow.
it's beautiful, beautiful views also.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I'll also, in the preamble, I think it was in the preamble, I was mentioning how once again, it never, I'm always surprised that I learn or see something new in the HealthPointe 6-week cycle when I do a HealthPointe cycle again. So here I am, into week 3, and I'm, reading the daily messages. And to your point about the celery fields and walking these inclines, there's a segment in the daily messages that talks about increasing your heart rate on some of these walks, be it however and why, because our heart produces a peptide that is particularly beneficial in terms of your mitochondrial health and fat burning state and stuff. When did they add that to the daily messages without me being aware of it? Because I've been actively coaching this, doing this, and suddenly somehow they added that to the daily messages that was never there before, I'm sure. But we are on, I don't know, it's around day 16, because you've got we're day 14, no, 13, I guess, in the 6-week cycle, but then you have the 3 prep days. So I think it's like day 16 or something in the daily messages talks about this. And I'm reading that and I'm just going, wow. And more importantly, I guess, is okay, when I'm doing my daily steps, I'm going to make sure that I get this segment like you're suggesting, Carol, be it the celery fields, or maybe in my case, if I'm indoors, go up and down the stairs. I have talked about that before, but I didn't ever know it from the daily messages, or at least not consciously. Maybe subconsciously it was in there. But yeah, you want to, they're hitting on this kind of this critical midpoint in the cycle, right? Where you've got this kind of thinking going on, this kind of, maybe you're right on track. Maybe they talk about plateaus and what's a plateau and what's not a plateau, but this segment on how your body produces this peptide when you get in this heart rate, which is, you take 220, they have that right in there, 220 minus your age times 80%. And that is, if you have a heart monitor, you want to have this kind of a burst in time where I think they recommend in the HealthPointe daily messages for like 10 minutes, you would get to this, let's say in my case, it's about 130 beats per minute, and get that elevated. Okay, that always kind of made sense intuitively, but now I once again see the science that they're describing in the daily messages. And I never saw that before. So
You know, and I listened to this the other day. I meant to write it down, but when I listen to these daily messages, I'm doing other things too. And they are so valuable and so spot on. What's interesting is as you're counseling people or mentoring people, some of the things that are coming up are things that are exactly right on the messages. So we as coaches, I think it's really important to just keep listening. You can listen to a stream of them. But you said 220 minus your age times
0.8.
0.8. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I had failed to write that down, and I wanted to go back and get that little thing because I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that especially when I take that first walk up, because it definitely raises your heart rate where
Yeah.
neighborhood does not. I mean, it's great, it's really great, but you need that variation. So anyway, so we'll leave all that till Monday, and if I haven't blown my heart rate right out and calorie fields, we'll see.
One
That
more
sounds,
variation shared by Stu Min was he talked about carrying your gallons of milk from the grocery store out to your car. And so I have 2 gallons in the basement where I do my walking. And so I intermittently pick them up and carry them around as to try to just get my heart rate up a little bit higher.
That's
Just
great.
another alternative.
Yeah.
just in case you don't have celery fields in your area of Michigan.
Or even if you're walking flat, jog a little bit. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not a big proponent of jogging because jogging for my body has never worked real well. I can power walk up the kazoo and no problem. But as soon as I start the pounding, but you can do that for, run a minute or two. That'll pop your heart rate up there, and do that every, whatever. There's lots of things
Yeah.
to do to, but yeah.
There's something that I kind of naturally evolved into. I'll try to describe it. Probably won't do a very good job, but because I'm doing a lot of my walking inside, like the hallway just outside the office, as I'm just doing, communications on my phone and stuff like that. And it's just back and forth, back and forth. And what I'll do, your normal walking gait is, you come down on your heel, that's just your normal walking. You're just walking along, and you can speed that up and stuff. But if it almost feels like you not only don't increase your speed, but also it feels like almost like maybe even you slow down, but you bend your legs and you're always on your toes. And you can see me kind of going up and down like this. And you're actually, I mean, you could almost do it standing in place, but because you're engaging your certainly your calves, I feel it the next morning in my calves, because we rarely get that emphasis on the balls of our feet, but then also in your quads. Well, you do that for a handful of minutes along with your normal pace. You just intermittently go into that mode where you're kind of just walking, but you're up on the balls of your feet and maybe lifting your knees a little bit higher, but not really, but just kind of, to me, it almost looks like if you've ever seen those videos of Boston Dynamic robots, where when they walk, whether it's a quadrupedal, looks like a little dog, it walks in kind of this, it doesn't look quite human where it comes down on the heel, but rather it's staying up on its toes. That's what I feel like when I'm doing it. I think out in public, I might be a little self-conscious doing it. I don't know. Maybe it looks a little too goofy, but inside the house, or David in the basement, carrying your jugs of water, I mean, it works great. But this is all.
You see little children doing that. I greet in church, and so people bring their darling little children in, and they'll walk on the balls of their feet.
Yeah.
They do that. So we would obviously do that in public, but watch children the way they walk and hop around.
Yeah.
All,
Right. Well, we are certainly looking forward to that then on Monday night, and I guess we'll close with this kind of some schedule announcement. So the Monday night, for those that aren't aware, or maybe are catching this recording on YouTube, that is for those that are actively engaged in the first cohort, the first class, so to speak, the first cycle of HealthPointe of 2025. And that is a Monday evening from 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have to have the Zoom link, get it from whoever your coach is to attend that. And you can be Generally speaking, it's off mic, and it's different than this walk and talk. You know, it's off mic, off camera, but it's a wonderful ability for those that are engaged in that 6-week cycle to kind of tap into Monday night, this community of other participants that are in that. So that is Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as you heard, Carol's going to be covering a segment on the benefits of walking. So the other programming note we'll close out with is normally it's see you next Saturday, same time, same place. But a number of us won't be in Eastern Standard Time. We'll be in Pacific Standard Time. We'll be in California attending a conference, and we will be there on Saturday morning. So we won't be here next Saturday for our live walk and talk Zoom. Next Saturday, we'll be learning many things, certainly many things HealthPointe related as well. And we're looking forward to that. And as always, we'll probably bring some of that back with us on the following episode. That will be the Saturday after next week. Okay, so 2 Saturdays from now, we'll resume here, but we won't be here next Saturday. So that said, that wraps up another wonderful time today, this Saturday, of Voices of HealthPointe. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hi. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.